Australia's final frontier does exist. We've been there. It's the southwest of Tasmania, and it's very fucking cool. Now to get there, you're gonna need a couple of things. You're gonna need a sturdy old ship. It's gotta have the bones to get us all the way from Hobart down to Port Davey. Then take us from Port Davey all the way down to Australia's most southern lighthouse at Maatsuyker Island. A 60-foot cray boat, that'll do it. Something built to rub up against the ancient quartzite rocks and drop cray pots next to the best holes. We're gonna need a steady captain to keep an eye on the crew and one hand on the helm, one eye on the radar and one eye on the GPS plotter. He's gonna need about 8 eyes and 7 hands. Well, the decky, he needs to be able to steer the tender right up into the tightest corners so we can catch giant abalone bigger than our hands. And at the end of the day, his job is to turn that abalone into sashimi. This is the story of the Southwest. Buckle up, motherfuckers.
All right, yeah, welcome aboard. So this trip, obviously, we're going far out there, around the coast. It's not your normal day out, it's a week out, and we might have some hairy weather on the way, so yeah. We travel by sea. It's a 15-hour steam from where we are in Hobart down to Port Davey. Throughout that, we go down the channel, which is quite favourable seas. It's protected by Bruni Island. Then you go on to the Actine Islands, get along the south coast, then you go around South West Cape. Once you're around there, it's about a 3 or 4 hour run up through some more islands. Once you're inside Breaksea Island, then you go into what we call Bramble Cove. Damo and I will be the crew, so we'll do the watches throughout the night. Hopefully arrive about 5 AM. We won't have phone reception for after about 10 PM tonight, so that's it. Yeah, off the grid, into the darkness. Why is it so hard to get to? There's just no access. It's in the southwest of Tasmania. Where we're located in the roaring 40s, that's our prevailing wind, is a hard westerly. There's only certain weather windows you can get in there throughout the year, and when one's there, if you're lucky enough, you can go. If there's not, you don't go. And it starts to make you wonder, what is it about Port Davey and the southwest? A few reasons it is probably the natural beauty. It's pristine, it is wild, it cops wild weather. There's no roads, there's a little airport, and otherwise it's untouched. Good morning. It's 5:45. We're here off the southwest of Tasmania. Southwest Cape's down there, one of the big 3 capes of the world. We're about 10 mile north, and about 100 metres of water. Just out here having a bit of a stripey fish before we head into Port Davey this morning. As this weather comes through, we might be stuck in there for a few days yet, so we should have plenty to do in there. We'll just make the most of it out here before the weather comes through. Yeah, good morning, Tas Maritime Radio. This is Golondrina. We're just off Breaksea Island, Port Davey. Could I please request the southwest coast forecast for today, please?
Breaksea Island, thank you. Forecast for southeast Cape to low rocky point.
I think we've just lost the weather. So starting out here, we've got the Breaksea Islands. They help provide shelter for this area. So this is the entrance to Bathurst Harbour, the Port Davey Narrows. So they flow through right up where we're heading tomorrow. So this area is Bramble Cove, and it's all the World Heritage UNESCO area, so it's very wild, very hard to get to, and don't usually see anyone else down here, which is good. So today we're going to head back outside out past the reserve and do some cray potting, and we'll just base ourselves in here. We missed the weather this morning, so we're not sure. That was forecast 20 to 30 knots northwest, so that will be a nice shelter in here, and we'll run around in the small dinghy and be able to do some fishing and diving. Diving's obviously my passion. I work underwater, and the other guys on this trip all love their diving, so we got to dive some pretty cool spots, different bottom. I think they're quite surprised at how many crayfish there actually were underwater. Where we were working, given that we were hiding from bad weather, also the commercial guys were as well. So those type of anchorages, even though they are on the west coast, they do get fished quite heavily, but we got plenty of nice fish. They're all probably, they wouldn't say the monsters that you do see. There was no tractors as such as that we'll get in other areas of Tasmania at times. You know, about the 1 kilo mark was about the biggest. Nice and sweet, and I think everyone enjoyed eating them.
You know, I'm a bit of a sucker for a cray, and these southern crays, they come in a pre-cooked colour. They're red, different to the eastern green crays, and they are sweet as sweet. Amazing the amount of produce that's down there that people that don't get in the water never know, never see.
So we've just been for a dive, just got back, so prepared some crayfish here, sashimi. So we're just going to have that with some pickled ginger, wasabi, soy. We'll try some Worcestershire. Same with the abalone there, sliced nice and thin. Also got bits of bull kelp, bit of a choop. There are different ways to cook it, so we'll have a play with that a bit later on. Just presented that on a piece of bull kelp there. The flavour of the abalone is quite subtle, whereas the flavour of the crayfish is quite sweet. We're cooking some crayfish also, so we've got a few in the pot going, and yeah, this is our entree and our main courses to come. Good morning. This is our second day, so we had our first night last night. We had about 50 knots plus at times during the night, so I was out of the cabin and had to sleep in the wheelhouse and keep an eye on everything. We're heading up the harbour now. As you'll see, the water's got a lot of fresh in it, a lot of tannin off the button grass plains. So we've got a layer of fresh water, then the salt water underneath. There's a lot of unique species in this harbour, just the only place in the world you'd find them, due to just the nature of how it is, how remote it is, and what there is around here. So what we're going to do, proceed through Bathurst Channel, which turns into Bathurst Narrows, then we go into Bathurst Harbour. From there, we'll probably head south to Clayton's Corner, then up the Melaleuca River to Melaleuca, and then come back out. Once you do get in there and you are around there, there's weeks and weeks of activities to do and exploring. I still haven't seen all of it.
This is a cottage behind me of Clyde and Winnie Clayton. He built it in the 60s, a fisherman, and he obviously married Winnie. She was the daughter of a tin miner. And I feel very privileged to come to a place as remote as this. I can't imagine how they survive living off the land with nothing and no help. Just absolutely mind-boggling. Incredible vessels that he's had over the years, and it's all documented inside this cottage. For anyone that wants to come and see a place like this, I recommend it. It's amazing. A lot of the gardens aren't obviously natives of here. This is a rhododendron, but they do very well in the cold climate. She's got lots of tree ferns around, and it must have been, I can just imagine her filling in the hours of the day while the husband was at sea, making this place beautiful for her and her husband, and I can understand it. We just walked to the top of the ridge, and the view back over Bathurst Harbour and all the surrounds and the mountains is breathtaking, and now I understand why people come to places like this. Very, very moving. We navigated, or the skipper navigated up Melaleuca Creek, and at times there wasn't a boat width to spare. So it was quite a tricky manoeuvre to get in there, and quite a good distance in. We tied alongside a jerry-built wharf, I would say. There was tea tree posts driven in and slats put across it just to raft the boat up against, and then we went in the tender ashore. And Parks and Wildlife had built a nice walkway, which was quite interesting to go through. All the, if you're into plants, the plant life there was amazing. A lot of swans on the lakes, and there was tin mining in that area in the 1800s, and everything had to be taken in exactly the way we went.
We're just inside Melaleuca now. It's up the river, down from south of Bathurst Harbour. So nearly all the halfway towards Cox's Bight, which is the south coast. So this whole area through here was an old tin mining area. Denny King was one of the more famous ones. They lived a pretty rugged life down here. They came down, they had to live off the land, and they lived with the land. So if you have a look through the museum, there's a lot about his meteorology, keeping the observations for 45 years, and just surviving down here and making a go of it, basically. So it's good to come down and have a look, and it's well preserved. There is an airstrip here, so there's flights out of Hobart daily, generally through Paravion, and they can come down and do a little tour out in the river and into the harbour. Otherwise, yeah, the rest of the people come in by boat, like we have, and that's the only way to access the area. The huts maintained by Parks and Wildlife, they've been built down here from stone and other timbers and materials found around the harbour, so that you can stay in them. A lot of people camp or bushwalk, but I guess after a few nights in a tent in the wind, it'd be nice to get into a hut. Yeah, during the trip we laid some cray pots at Shanks's Island, and I chose the northeastern side as I knew it was going to be blowing southwesterly, so when we did go to collect them we could pick them up. I've spent a lot of years in abalone boats, doesn't matter whether they're dinghies, 24-foot shark cats, bass straits, those type of vessels in around the rocks, and for whatever reason you sort of the swell takes you towards them and brings you away. But the main thing was pre-planning and knowing to have the wind off the rocks, so if anything happened you were going to blow away from the danger, which is obviously hitting the rocks and wrecking the vessel and getting in lots of trouble. Yeah, so what we're doing, we're coming in, we set these pots, we had a bit of bad weather coming, so they actually set 2 days ago. We've done it so we're on the lee shore, you don't want to be on the windward shore, creates too much stress and danger, so we can come right in here in the big girl and pick them up without too much of a worry. If we're going to blow anywhere, we're blowing away from the danger. All right, Damon, we'll grab this first one, mate. Shot.
Come in there again, Tony.
Right, there's a couple of sized in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll go this next one straight up too, and then we'll get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the weather was fair enough, so we got to go and anchor up at the landing at Maatsuyker Island, which is got the Australia's southernmost lighthouse on it. And to be built in 1880, it's quite phenomenal how they did it. Like for us to even climb up there, up the haulage way, then you find that they've had horses up there and rotating things for pulleys and all that. To build the lighthouse is just a huge feat of engineering in harsh environment.
It boggles the mind to think, how did they build that? It was built brick by brick, and they had a cable car set up to bring materials up to build it. There's a lot of bricks in a lighthouse that's that tall and that strong.
You're south looking north to Tasmania, so you can see Southwest Cape right around all the chain of islands down to the Mewstone, the Big Witch, the Little Witch, all those islands. You can see the big harbours, New Harbour, Cox's Bluff, all those areas. So it is quite special to get up there. And you know, on a boat voyage, we spend a lot of time on the boat, then we go in the dinghy fishing and do that. It's really good fun to go for a walk. You've got to get off the dinghy, so it's not for everyone. You've got to be fairly nimble. Through a seal colony, which seem to bark and yell at you. They seem to be swearing, a certain swear word they say. It starts with F, really loud, it's quite funny. So we met the caretakers this trip.
We're David and Di Masters, and we're the caretakers here. We're volunteer caretakers for 6 months, from September through to March next year. And you're at Maatsuyker Island, which is off the south coast of, about 10 k's off the south coast of Tasmania. And you're at the most southerly lighthouse in Australia. The whole mechanism was made in Great Britain and shipped out, and it was built there, operated there to make sure it worked, and then it was taken to bits and numbered and reassembled when they got it here. Normally, or quite often, they run on a bed of mercury. This one runs on these wheels. Everything relied on shipping, and it was very dangerous. I mean, Tasmania is surrounded by shipwrecks from that era, and this was a game changer. Suddenly it was safe, you know, relatively speaking. They still had a few shipwrecks, but you knew where you were all around the world. Just was a dramatic change in you know, reliability and safety. Well, the highlights, you've got this place to yourself. It's part of the World Heritage Area. You know, it's a very highly valuable heritage location, and you've got it to yourself to look after for 6 months. Well, there aren't any lows. I mean, you can be confined to the house for a few days because of really bad weather, and we regularly get wind gusts in excess of 60 knots, so that's about 115 k's an hour. And the biggest here, I think, was 209 or something, but thankfully we weren't here when that happened.
Well, I guess the highs for me is we've just got this place to ourselves, and there's no rush and tear about, you know. We're completely out of that sort of manic kind of, you know, life that you live in a city. I absolutely love the vegetable garden, being able to feed ourselves And I keep talking about all the seedlings being my babies, and every day I go and check my babies. And it's just really lovely to be able to do that, to be sustainable.
I think they might get one food resupply, otherwise they're very self-sufficient down there.
And the view from up there, I've got memories that are etched into my mind. I've got photos as well, of course, but very amazing place.
Trumpeter, yeah, that's the charter skipper's favourite one. Everyone wants to catch them at all times.
They're just pure muscle. I've fished for a lot of fish over the years. I've been in New Guinea and fished for black bass, but a trumpeter fights from the minute you hook it to the minute you try to take a picture of it. It just fights the whole way.
They're finicky, so you can, sometimes you can be there for an hour and you get 20. Sometimes you can be there for 10 hours and not even get one. So, I've been to the same reef on same conditions, same tide, same baits. They're on, you go back to exactly the same thing. Next time they're not. Then maybe a year later they are. But when they're on, they're on. They're great fun. It puts a smile on everyone's face.
I caught one that was probably around 5 kilo. There's an old fisherman here that said he's caught one 40 pound, which is, like 18 kilo, which is a pretty, I wouldn't like to tangle with that. I think it'd give you a good workout. So they're just a ball of muscle. And when you hook one, you know all about it. They don't muck around. There's no pick, there's no fiddling about. You're hooked up and you're on and you're getting your arms pulled out of your sockets. So they're certainly an amazing fish.
They're reef fish. They've lived on hard reefs, just good food source. So cold, fresh, deep water. They're really good, solid flesh in them. Tastes delicious.
To eat, amazing fish. You hear about it and you think, oh no, I could eat this, it's better or whatever. No one would complain about a trumpeter. They're the sweetest meat. They're not a fishy fish. A lot of people always tell me, oh, I don't like that because it's fishy. These are just amazing. You'd pick this any day over a steak. It's the nicest fish I've ever eaten.
So the Golondrina, our vessel, it was built in 1959 in Tasmania. It's got an old Gardner engine in it. We purchased it off a family friend about 2.5 years ago, Morrie Wolf. He had it for 25 years. He'd actually rebuilt the vessel. He bought it for $1 and 60 foot of water, as he says, and he got her up from the grave. Yeah, we're coming up the channel today. So old Morrie, he lives in Middleton, so we go past his house and he always gives me a call or sends me a message when he sees the boat go past, and today we got him on board. He's the master of that bait board. That was his bait board.
Well, let's see that white stuff around his mouth there. Well, that's milk. He's still being breastfed, the poor old fella. Shame to take him off his mother. It's a good boat. Every time the warm weather comes good, I'd like to be on going down the river, fair dinkum. Good sea boat and all, good all-rounder. Well, she was built up in Bridport. It took about 18 months to build her. And when she was built, she had a 4L3B Gardner in her. She got blue gum keels, triggy bark timbers and celery top pine planking. And then they put a 6L3B Gardner in her when they went up to Queensland prawning and stuff. And then of course came down here, ended up on the bottom out of Cremorne. And when I had a look at her, she was, the top was off the top of the wheelhouse, and the wheelhouse was like that on her. It didn't look all that cray shot, I can tell you. I told them I said I'll give you 2,320 bucks, I think it was, for her, where she is. Yeah, so we went and got her. Took us a week to get her up. Yeah, we got her up float and then she plummet sunk again.
So he worked meticulously for 18 months to 2 years to get her back fishing again. He wanted to go from fiberglass back to timber, and that's what he did. Yeah, Morrie's been great to have along on the journey even since I bought the vessel. With his experience and all his knowledge of the southwest, he's spent 60 years fishing around there and a lot of time in that area.
All right, see you, mate.
Good on you, Chaz. All the best, brother. Yeah.
This boat is built with nice lines. It's got basically what I call a sawn-off canoe stern. So that means it doesn't have a wide stern that catches in following seas and prevents any broaching or assists in it. It makes for a much more comfortable ride. It was designed and rebuilt to do charters with plenty of space. Large undercover awning on the stern and the back deck. It's good because a lot of the time it is raining or there is spray and things like that. It handles a punching sea very well. It's got a round bilge, so you know, as a skipper, you're always constantly monitoring the movement of the vessel, altering course and those type of things, just to make sure everyone has the smoothest ride. And there are a lot of opportunities to just easily change that on this vessel. So yeah, it was built as a cray boat, as we call them in Tasmania, or a lobster boat. These are the cray pots used. With abalone, they carry the dinghy, and off they go, and then you come back with the catch, and then we store it in the tank, which carries up to 3 tonne of product. So that's the job. The tank circulates the seawater through constantly, keeping the fish alive in a happy place, and then we transport them back to Hobart or to southern Tasmania to unload them and send them to the factory live. Okay, so this is the Gardner main engine. These are British built, they're very famous. They last a long time. This one's done 19,000 hours. So it's a 6-cylinder, there's the 6 individual cylinder heads. They're quite simple, all mechanically operated. So if you flood your engine room, as long as you don't get seawater into the air intakes, this thing will still run. There are stories that the old fishermen used to be able to roll start these, so they'd get them just to fire on one cylinder and she'll poof, 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 put away, and then they'll bring the other cylinders on. But the main thing is it's nice and quiet. It's got a nice exhaust on it that, you know, we can have a good conversation in the wheelhouse. This engine's just a 3 tonne pretty much. We've got a 3-phase genset here, so that provides a normal type of house power. You get used to having to learn to look after them and managing them, having all the replacement parts, all your oils, all that type of stuff on board is super important. Yeah, I've always had a fondness for the sea. My father and grandfather were fishermen and a lot of uncles. Being on the sea really excites me. I don't think I've ever been to a desert. You know, the places I get to go to, being a Tasmanian, around our coast, from, you know, holiday destinations just to wild fishing places where you can go and get those dream fish that you want.
It's so remote, and when you're cruising along and each time you come around a headland or an island, there's another bay, there's another place to explore. Everything you look at in nature, to me, is art. I would recommend to anyone that loves the sea and loves wildlife, you know, you'll just have so much fun. I'd just grab the opportunity because it's an amazing place.
It is just going into another world. It's in its own time capsule. If you want to be pampered, then, you know, there's plenty of resorts for that. This is where you come to experience the life at sea.